This is part two of the Woodmere story. So what had happened is I went to court over the speeding ticket, and the judge was telling me why didn't I pay the ticket, and I told him I simply forgot about it. It was years ago. I was 16 when I actually got the ticket. So I asked him, could he give me 30 days to pay the ticket? And then the way he looked at it is years passed, and he was like, if you ain't paid that ticket in all these years, you're not going to pay. That's what he said. And so he said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 10 days in Pontiac, Michigan, for the unpaid speeding ticket. So those of you that's got tickets and stuff like that, I don't know how it is today actually, but I do know that back then I got 10 days in Pontiac for unpaid speeding ticket. So I thought that was crazy. I couldn't believe it actually, but that's what went down. But anyways, getting back to the Woodmere story. So I do that, and as I'm getting out, my godmother and my street brother Jay, no, it wasn't Jay, it was my godmother and my younger street brother, and they came to pick me up from Pontiac after I did my 10 days. Then after that, my godmother wanted me to go to their house on Woodmere instead of me going back over to the job site. So at this time, I'm just glad to be finished with that situation. So I go over there, we have coffee, we're talking, and she asks me, what all, we're talking about the story, how it unfolded and everything, what all happened. So I told her, and then, but I told her, I said, I'm going to have to get back over to that site because this was actually a plumbing job that a friend of mine, Kaz, his mother hired me to do, which I had guys working for me. And luckily, while I was doing the 10 days, the guys went to work every day and just kept things rolling while I was unable to do anything, So when I went back over there, they were everybody was, glad to see me and everything and showing me all of what they've done and stuff like that. And but so we continued on with that Kaz's mom's house, and then we finished it, which everything came out real good at her house, and she had a house right off a junction in Detroit City, and she had bought it off her sister. And this was a house that she wanted to redo it. It was like a first floor, second floor, and it had a basement. And it was right next to the alley, And but anyways, we took care of that. And then at the time, I got this big rope chain that I have, and then I have a pager, and the pager I always kept it clipped on my shirt and not in my pocket. I have hooked it on my pocket, but most people wore them on their pockets. But I used to just keep mine up toward me, And because a lot of times, we would go to the bars and all that, and it's easy just to lose your pager if you just got it clipped to your pocket or whatever. So I always made sure I had mine where I wouldn't lose it. And but anyways, I had this big rope chain, and it had the money sign on it, and I had got it down on Woodward, downtown Detroit. It was a store down there that was selling all kind of gold chains with different medallions on them and stuff like that. And but as time passed, we like I said, the whole crew's partying all the time and stuff like that. And so as time passed, we're having this big party, and this girl, Sherry Soulsby, she been wanting that medallion off my chain. And so what had happened is we was partying one time, and I decided I was going to give it to her. So I took the chain off, I took the medallion off, I gave it to her. She used it for a keychain, actually. And then I just wore the chain. And then I went back over to my godmother's place, where I stayed at, and but it was my godmother's actual place, And anyways, I stayed there and stuff like that. And then I had some girls coming there to visit me and see me and stuff like that. And then one time, there was this girl in the neighborhood that I had seen a long time ago, and I believe somebody had told her where I was staying at, because one day I was up there, and this is when we was living on Woodmere, and we're upstairs, and then my brother Jay comes up to me. He says, "Hey man, there's a girl downstairs," because him and his old lady had a bedroom fixed in the basement of that place. And so when somebody knocked on the door, he'd be able to hear it, even though we all stayed upstairs. He said, "Hey, there's some girl asking about you downstairs." And I said, "A girl?" Because I wasn't expecting nobody, and I didn't know who the hell it could have been, But when I went down there, I seen who it was. Me and her kicked it. We went around the store, got a 40, was drinking, walking through the neighborhood, stuff like that. Just catching up on different things and stuff like that. And but and it was pretty cool that she looked me up, because it's been a good while since I seen her, but it was cool that she looked me up and things like that. So that was pretty straight. But just a lot of things went on over there by Woodmere. And also a friend of mine, he's another street brother of mine, James Yates. I would always look him up, or he'd look me up. We'd hang out, when we could, stuff like that, hang out together and stuff. And back in them days, here's the way I was. I would he would come and hang out, stuff like that. And I gave him work before and stuff so he could make some money and things like that. But anyways, every time we'd go to the store or something, I'd get a beer or whatever, and he'd get whatever he was getting, and I would pay for it, and then I would just walk away, and then the man would give my change to him, and that's just the way I did, just so I could give him money, you know what I mean, so he could get a little bit of money. And over the years, I've always been generous with different things and stuff like that, just basically help people, and especially when I know they need a little change or whatever, or a little bit of money, whatever. If I'm in the position to throw you something, I'm gonna throw you something. That's just the way I am, But I used to do him like that all the time, every time me and him would run together and stuff. So he just got so used to it that he knew that when I would pay for something, he would just stand there and I'd walk away and the guy would just give him the change, And that was just my way of, giving him a little bit of money for whatever he needed, because at that time he didn't have a job when I was doing that, you know. So that was just pretty cool thing to do for a partner of yours, a street brother of yours, or something like that. If you're really trying to, look out, make sure they got a little bit of something, something. And it's always good, as I say on my channel all the time, it's always good to look out for the next person. Especially one of your homegirls, or one of your homies, something like that. Always, look out. If you can look out, look out. Some people just ain't able to look out, and then, that's understandable. But if you can, it's always good to look out, no matter what it is. It could be something small, or whatever. But it just makes you a good person. People remember the small things that you do or the big things that you do. And people just don't forget that. They really, appreciate when you do something good, And it also comes back to you in different ways at different times, things of that nature. So, just keep that in mind. Always be on the right vibe, treat people the way you want to be treated, and help people when you're able to help them. You know what I mean? But Detroit's just a place where, people, you got a lot of people that does good, and then you got a lot of people that's not doing too well. And then some of them people is people or if you know them for, through the neighborhood or, whatever, you went to school with them, whatever the case may be, So that's why it's always important to look out for people when you're able to look out for them, and then, it'll come back to you, one, they might be up sometimes and then be able to look out for you or something like that. So, it's always good to just, do good things and good things will happen. You know what I mean? Also, I want to say, when you want good things to happen to you, for you, and to you, the main thing is just have a positive outlook on things, and you can pretty much manifest what's going to happen in your future. You know what I mean? And you could just put this in the air, and this'll happen. You know what I mean? And some people don't believe that. Just try it. And now, not saying you say something it's gonna hit you tomorrow. You know what I mean? But you gotta put positive stuff for yourself in the air, and these things manifest to happen for you. Whether it's getting a car, getting some money, winning the lottery, anything like that. Just, there's ways to manifest this, and this will come to tuition for you, And some people are going to find that hard to believe, but you just work on it and just believe in certain things that you do. Say you want a certain car. If you always talk about this certain car or post pictures about this car or something like that, this is going to happen for you. You know what I mean? Everybody's in charge of their own destiny, and everybody's in charge of what happens. It's nobody's job to take care of you but yourself. And then if people do look out for you, that's a plus. But that don't mean they got to. You know what I mean? And so that being said, just know that you can make things happen for yourself just by, you know, talking about it, posting pictures about it, whatever you want to do to make this happen, whether it's getting a car, getting some money, winning the lottery, getting an apartment, getting a house, any of that. This works for all of that. Now, like I said, just because you do it don't mean it's going to happen tomorrow. It may happen tomorrow, but you just really don't know what day it's going to happen. But you do got to stay positive and believe in what you're doing. And if you're having a hard time, stuff like that, you can bring your own self out of the situation you're in. You ain't, you're in charge. Just remember that. And it's nobody's job to make sure that you got what you need or anything like that. It's nobody's job but yourself. But if people do help you and people look out for you, like I said, that's a plus. But you can manifest what goes on in your future. You know what I mean? And here at Detroit's Darkest Times, we're real believers in that because it's happened many a times for us. You know what I mean? And that's why we believe strongly in that. And also, if you know somebody that's having a hard time and you're able to help, you ain't got to do humongous things for people. Some people do. Some people do that they're able to, buy a house for somebody or buy a car for somebody or start a business for somebody or give them money to start a business, whatever, and that's all good. But everybody's not able to do that. But if you're able and you're in a position to help people, we always say at Detroit's Darkest Times, help them. It'll make you feel good about yourself. And you'll be glad you did it after you do it. And then, you can see things change. But most of all, just know that if you're having a hard time, you can bring your own self out of it. You ain't really got to depend on nobody to get you out that situation. You know what I mean? You just got to be a strong believer, manifest the situation, talk about it, and you can post things on the internet these days that it will just come to tuition for you. And those of you that try this method and then it comes to tuition for you, then you can thank me later. Because then you're going to know, you're going to be like, damn, that dude was right. You know what I mean? But that's real. And it's just, you just put it in the universe and it'll go down. You know what I mean? That's why it's good to, believe in there's a better day. You know what I mean? Tomorrow will be a better day. Whether you're having a shitty day today or whatever, tomorrow's always a better day. So you just always got to, stay positive, look at things in a good light, things like that. Because I'm telling you, where I came from And the places that I've been, it's really important to understand that Slick here at Detroit's Darkest Times, this cat has went through a whole lot of stuff, bad and good. You know what I mean? And still, today, just keep striving to do better and stay positive, and treat people the way you want to be treated and things like that. And it's just really, it's just a real good blueprint to go by, treat people the way you want to be treated, help when you can help, and if you want to manifest certain things in your life, there's ways to do it. And you just got to be a believer and you just got to stay at it. And once you stay at it and know it's going to happen for you, and then discipline has a lot to do with it too, though. You got to discipline yourself. Like, say you got a fairly decent job, but you hitting the restaurants all the time, and you spending unnecessary money that you could be saving a little bit of it. You can just cut back on certain things that you're doing in order to get something else that you want. Sometimes that's a good thing to do. So it just depends, on each individual. But the main thing is you yourself can make anything happen for yourself. And you don't need nobody's help. And like I said, if people do help you, whatever, that's a plus. That's great. We're not knocking nothing like that, but we're just saying to let you know that if you put things into the universe for yourself, that things will come to tuition. You know what I mean? And it's not no certain time or certain day or anything like that. You just got to really be a believer, make it happen, stay positive, things like that, and shit will go good. You know what I mean? It's just the way it is. So that's really important that we want our audience to know. And then we also want the audience to know that Detroit's Darkest Times is growing, and we want you to be a part of this channel. So if you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe, hit the like and the notification bell, and just grow with us, be a part of Detroit's Darkest Times, and just stay positive. You know what I mean? It's very important to stay positive. And some people have a hard day or a hard time or something, and then they just get frustrated and, they just wonder, why is this happening, But the thing is, everybody's got a path to go down, and you're going to go down it, whether you like it or not. There's a path you're going to go down, and you just got to deal with it as it comes, and stay away from negativity. If all the people around you negative, like you say you're going to do something or something like that, and they're like, oh, you ain't going to do that, whatever. You need to separate yourself from people like that, because you want to be around people that's on your team, you know what I mean? That's really hoping that you do well. Because a lot of times if you're in a group or you got a team or something like that, if you do well, they do well. You know what I mean? So it's very important to pull for each other and make sure that each other's good. And this is how you prosper into good things. You know what I mean? But you just can't be around a whole lot of negativity, because if you are around that, it's going to hold you back. You know what I mean? Straight up. So we always say, just stay positive, be on a good vibe, and just know tomorrow is going to be a better day. And the most important thing that here at Detroit's Darkest Times that we would tell our audience, and this is to survive a long life. It's very important that you pay attention to what you do on a day-to-day basis. And if you go out at night at clubs and stuff like that, there ain't nothing wrong with that, but just pay attention to what you're doing at all times. And the reason for that is because if something pops off, and nowadays they got everybody, shooting and stuff like that, and barely knows how to hold a weapon, So you got people with these weapons shooting random, in random places and at a certain person, but there's a whole crowd of people around, you know what I mean? And you see it on the news all the time when this is going down. And so that being said, that's what we're trying to say is if you go to a club or something, just be aware of your surroundings, stuff like that. And if you see something fixing to pop off or whatever, get your crew and head out of Dodge, because it ain't worth just sticking around, because if you do, you're liable to get hit with a stray bullet or something like that, accidentally. Because these people these days that shooting these weapons, they have no skill, they have no ability to hit the target that you're trying to hit or anything like that, you know what I mean? So just keep that in mind, because this ain't whoever's doing this is not no professional shooter or anything like that, so you could easily get hit, anywhere on the streets, at a park, in a nightclub, anywhere. So what we're saying here at Detroit's Darkest Times is just don't stop having fun, don't stop going out or whatever you're doing, just enjoy your life, but we're just saying pay attention to your surroundings and on your day-to-day situation, no matter what you're doing. If you're going to work, coming home from work, going out to the club, going to the restaurant, anything of that nature, just make sure you pay attention to your surroundings, because you never know when there's a hothead out there that's just waiting for something to pop off where he can, pull a gun or something like that. So just make sure that, try not to be around stuff like that. And if something like that occurs, make sure you get out of Dodge and get your crew out of Dodge. And that way you don't run into no stray bullets or anything like that. Because shit's getting crazy in this day and time. You know what I mean? But they got a place for them kind of people, though, so you're going to have to know that. So once they get caught, they don't realize that it's not worth doing what they're doing, because, they're throwing 20, 30 years of people like it's, Halloween candy, you know what I mean? So those are ones that's, randomly carrying weapons that ain't even supposed to have them, and just out there, just popping off all the time, stuff like that. They got a place for you, so if that's what you want to do, then that's your choice, you know what I mean? But just make sure that well, if I carry this act out, I'm gonna have to pay 30 years of my life for that, or longer. It just depends. It just depends. This day and time, it depends. I mean, they can just get rid of you permanently. You know what I mean? So, it's really best just to everybody to get along, everybody have a good time, and everybody go back home. You know what I mean? That's the best thing to do. And then that way, it's longevity for everybody, because, the only thing that's going to happen is if you something happens naturally, you know what I mean, to you or something like that. And then other than that, you're going to have longevity, you know what I mean? So, that being said, we just like to keep it real. We like to, tell it like it is. We don't hold back on anything. And, you know, just remember, watch your back, stay positive, make your future better by manifesting what you want in life, stuff like that, and it will happen. You know what I mean? You just got to put the work in, and you will get results, no doubt. And this is Slick from Detroit's Darkest Times, and we're out.